Hello dear students, today I would like to start a new topic which is thermoanalytical technique. So previously in our lectures we study electrochemical techniques. Now I would like to start a new topic which is thermoanalytical techniques. Previously we studied potentiometry, polarography and radiochemicals method. Now we will start a new technique which is related to thermoanalytical analysis or thermoanalytical techniques. So this is for your basic information, basic knowledge that a basic method of measuring the thermal properties of materials to create a link between temperature and specific physical properties of substance. So if you found any word like thermal properties mean you have to heat the solution to check the properties, basically physical property. It is the only technique for direct determination of the enthalpy associated with the process of interest. And it is used in different fields of natural sciences, chemistry, biochemistry, cell biology, biotechnology, and pharmacology. So in pharmaceutical analysis, we will study three thermoanalytical techniques, which is DSC, differential scanning calorimetry, differential thermal analysis, and thermogravimetric analysis. And we will start with DSC. It was discovered and developed in 1960, but commercially it was introduced in 1963. So this is the development and commercially availability of this technique. So now we will start. DS is considered one of the major and most popular type of calorimeters. It is used to measure how physical properties of a given sample change along with temperature against time. DASC operators is the thermal analysis operators used to determine the heat flow. Okay, heat flow and temperature associated with the sample transition as a function of time and temperature. Determine the heat flow, that your sample is absorbing the heat or emitting the heat. Heat is either absorbed by your sample or emitted by your sample. This is heat flow. So we can measure temperature with the physical properties, that if we provide the heat, your sample is absorbing the heat or emitting the heat. So this is the basic idea. So if the reaction is endothermic or if the reaction is exothermic, okay, then we will analyze it by DSC curve. In other words, DSC operators is able to measure a heat quantity which is absorbed or emitted by the sample with reference to difference of temperature between the sample and the reference material. So this I already explained you that when you heat your sample, the sample is able to absorb the heat or start to emit the heat. In both cases, we can analyze it with DSC curve, and we will now proceed further. So this is the simple instrument which you see on your screen. So we have two pen. This is sample pen, this is reference pen. These are two heaters, separate heaters, and both are connected to one computer. Okay, and if you have a polymer in your sample, it means that it is some extra material. And if both heaters are controlled by the computer, and they have to, okay, they have to, or there must be equal increase in temperature on heating rate in both heaters. Suppose if one heater, suppose reference pan means standard. So if it is a 40 degree, it must be at 40 degree. Okay, it can, suppose if two person are walking and one is near FC college and one is near Mall Road, okay, and both have to reach Anarkali. The person near FC college has to move fast, has to work more. Okay, if he is walking, he has to run. Okay, so the heating rate is same, so you have to move fast. So in the sample pan we have some extra material, and if the sample absorbs the heat, then this heater under the sample pan has to work more. And if the sample emits the heat, the reaction is exothermic, and then the heater is working slowly. So this is the main component. We have sample holder, sensors which can sense the temperature, furnace which can heat, this is the furnace, and temperature controller that the temperature of both can remain same. So what is the basic principle? There are two separate pan for sample and reference material. Each pan has separate heater which is under the control of computer. The computer operated heater supplies the heat at a constant and specific rate, usually 10 degrees per minute throughout the procedure. The computer ensures that the heating rate stays exactly the same. Both pans with their own heater must heat at the same rate. The heating rate must be same. Okay, but speed can be varied. Okay, because if we have some extra material in the sample pan, it has to increase its own speed to a to make a balance, okay, with the reference pan. So if we add some polymer or any sample in the reference in the sample pan, while the other is the reference pan which is left empty. Okay, this means there is some extra material in the sample pan. Obviously sample pan needs more heat than the reference pan to increase the temperature at the same rate. Okay, now you can understand. If we have some sample on the sample pan, so the heater inside or beneath the sample pan has to work more. Okay, because it has to increase the temperature at the same rate as the reference pan. So we have comparison with the reference pan, and the reference pan has no material, so it will increase like normal. You don't have to work fast or slow. Therefore, the heater of the sample pan has to work hard than the reference pan heater. It has to generate more heat to maintain the same rate. The same rate is important. Okay, it has to produce more or generate more heat than the reference pan. And how much more heat sample heater has to put out is what is measured in DSC experiment, and then we have a beautiful graph. So now there are two types of DSC. One is heat flux DSC and one is power compensated DSC. So if we talk about the sample holders, both types have the same sample holders. And if we talk about the sensor, in the heat flux DSC, sample and reference pan have the same sensors, but in the power compensated DSC, sensors and heater for the sample and reference pan are separate. We have then two sensors. And if we talk about the furnace, in heat flux DSC we have one block for both sample and reference cell, but in power compensated DSC we have separate blocks of sample and reference cells. And now if we talk about the temperature must be at controlled rate because the mechanism behind DSC is same. Okay, it does not matter that you are using heat flux DSC or power compensated DSC, the heating rate must be same. And if we put something on the sample pan, it has to generate more heat because it has some extra material on the sample pan. So the temperature one is remains same because it is the basic principle of DSC. So the difference is of sensor and of furnace. And now I will show you the diagram. So this is the furnace, and in one furnace we have sample pan and reference pan, and we have one sensor. But if we talk about power compensated DSC, we have two furnace. These are furnace, and we have in one furnace sample pan, in one furnace we have reference pan, and we have two sensors which are thermocouples, and they are connected to one computer. So this is the difference, and the mechanism behind DSC is same of temperature Now we are talk about how you can prepare the sample for analysis. So sir, the small sample pan 0.1 ml of inert or treated matter. Inert or treated matter mean that they will not take part in any reaction, or they will not transfer their own heat, or they will not start endothermic or exothermic reaction of their own. And then they have several pan configuration, which is open pin or thermally sealed airtight pan. The same material and configuration should be used for sample and the reference material. An accurate weigh sample nearly 3 to 20 milligram. Material should be completely covered with the bottom of the pan to ensure good thermal contact. Avoid overfilling the pan to minimize thermal lag from the bulk of the material to the sample. You have to put the sample in a way that there is maximum thermal contact of the surface with the sample. You don't have to put a, you can say, triangle shaped sample. Okay, so it is not equally distributed, so you have to distribute equally. Okay, and you don't have to overfill. Okay, you don't have to overfill, and there must be maximum thermal contact with the pan. And now we will talk about DSC curve. The result of a DSC experiment is the curve of heat flux versus temperature or versus time. There are two different conventions: exothermic or endothermic reaction in the sample shown with a positive or negative field depending on the kind of technology used in the experiment. So I already told you that your sample will maybe show exothermic or endothermic or both. We will discuss in our next slides. So the curve can be used to calculate enthalpies of transition, which is done by integrating the peak corresponding to given transition. The enthalpy of transition can be expressed using equation delta H is equal to Ka, where delta H is the enthalpy of transition, K is the calorimetric constant, A is area under the curve. So you can calculate area under the curve from DSC curve. So now we will talk about the calorimetric constant varies from instrument to instrument and can be determined by analyzing a well-characterized material of known enthalpies of transition. Area under the curve is directly proportional to the heat absorbed or evolved, okay, by the reaction or by your sample. Height of the peak is directly proportional to the rate of reaction. So what are the different factors which are involved or which can affect your experiment? So first of all, instrumentation factor. So what are instrumentation factor? Furnace heating rate. Okay, it might be possible that your furnace is not heating properly. Recording or chart speed. Okay, recording or chart speed. And furnace atmosphere. Geometry of sample holder or location of sample. Geometry of sample holder may be where if you are using power compensated flux, you have two furnaces and two separate sample and reference pan different position. Okay, so you have to keep in mind that the exact location of the sample pan and reference pan must be in the same direction, and the distance from the furnace must be same. And then composition of sample containment, and then there are different sample characteristics which can affect your DSC curve, which are amount of sample. If you overfill it, I already told you, nature of sample, sample packing, solubility of evolved gases in the sample. So if there are some evolved gases also stuck in the sample, it will also affect the DSC curve. Particle size, if you have very small particle size, you have large surface area. If you have large particles, then you have small surface area. Heat of reaction and thermal conductivity, and you have to be very careful that your experiment is going well. So that's why it varies from instrument to instrument, and first of all you have to analyze a well characterized sample or a standard you have to use to confirm that your experimental and all these factors are negligible. So what parameters can be obtained from DSC curve? It is used to measure the amount of heat emitted or absorbed by a sample as it is heated, cooled or held at constant temperature. The heat, the energy necessary to establish zero temperature difference between the sample and the reference is measured at a control temperature. So there must be no temperature difference, zero temperature difference between sample and reference. So what we analyze in DSC, it is glass transition, crystallization and melting point. Glass transition crystallization and melting point are different types of transition. So glass transition is second order transition, while crystallization and melting point are first order transition. What is different between first order and second order? In first order there must be latent heat of heat, mean that there must be heat evolved or absorbed by the sample, is known as first order. And the glass transition, there is no heat involved, there is no heat absorbed or emitted by the sample. It is just to start, you can say, a reaction. So first of all, we talk about glass transition. So glass transition is from disordered solid to liquid, observed in glassy solid like polymers. When a sample is heated after a certain temperature, the DSC plot suddenly shifted downward. Shown in the graph, this shown there is more heat flow. More heat flow, that the heat is going from outside into the sample. So in the surrounding we have less heat. It is used to measure polymer transition. So we have exothermic above, because in exothermic there is more heat flow outside, and endothermic there is less heat flow outside. So if you have any exothermic reaction in a beaker and you hold the beaker, if it is exothermic, you feel that the beaker is becoming hot, and if it is endothermic, you feel less temperature outside, so the heat is going inside the temperature and you feel that it is like ice cold water or ice, you feel cold. Okay, so that's why in endo the temperature is less and in the exo the temperature is high, because of the heat flow. So the heat capacity of the sample is increased. So it is also used to measure heat capacity. How what is heat capacity we will discuss in our next slide, but it is used to measure the heat capacity of the sample is increased. Glass transition temperature is usually the middle of the incline obtained from DSC thermograph. So now we will talk about what is heat capacity. So first of all, what is heat flow? Heat flow is heat divided by time, which is Q over T. Then what is heating rate? Temperature increase divided by time, delta T divided by T. And then we have heat flow divided by heating rate, and this is Q divided by delta T. Cp is equal to heat capacity. So this is the formula of heat capacity. It is the amount of heat transferred to the sample which increases the temperature of the sample. Okay, first you have a sample, you put on the sample pan and then you start to heat it. So there is the amount of heat transfer into the sample and the temperature of the sample increases. The heat required to attain this temperature is called as heat capacity of the sample. So you can measure heat capacity from this equation, and you can also measure with glass transition. So now we talk about crystallization. So if you find a big peak in your DSC curve, you can say it is crystallization temperature of your sample. But how? Because if your sample start to release heat, it is exothermic reaction. So it is an exothermic transition process. Sharp positive peak, disorder to order transition, material can crystallize, observed in glassy solid polymer. So polymers show this peak, and this is decrystallization. The polymers have a lot of mobility, they wiggle and scrimp and never stay in one position for very long time. But when they reach the right temperature, they will give off enough energy to move into very ordered rearrangement, which is called crystal. So in crystallization form, the molecules or the ions or the atoms move in a very orderly arrangement, or when they start to move in an order arrangement, they will emit the heat or give off enough energy in the form of heat, which is an exothermic reaction, and we find a sharp positive peak in the DSC curve. Because of exothermic reaction, it makes the heater under the sample really happy. So the heater under the sample pan is really happy. It is happy because it does not have to put out much heat to keep the temperature of the sample pan rising. You can see this drop in the heat flow as a big peak in the plot of heat versus temperature. So you will see this drop in heat. Drop in heat means that your heater is not working anymore, but the temperature of the sample is increasing and the sample is showing an exothermic reaction that the surrounding environment become increase. Okay, so then that's why the heater under the sample pan did not have to work more and it become very happy. The temperature at the highest point in the peak is usually considered to be the polymer crystallization temperature. And now we'll talk about melting temperature. So if you find a negative peak in the DC curve, we called it as TM, melting temperature curve. So it is an endothermic transition, negative peak on the thermogram, order to disorder transition. Polymer crystal began to fall apart, melting. So polymer crystals or crystals start to melt. They change their order arrangement and begin to move freely because in the liquid state, molecules move, start movement freely. Melting is a first order transition. This means that at melting temperature, the polymer temperature would not rise until all crystals have melted. So there is a deep. So now you cannot increase the temperature of the sample unless all the crystal will be melted. That's why we have decrease in temperature. You will find that endothermic is absorbing the heat, so the sample become cold. The heat flow is inside the sample. That's why we have dip in the DC curve. So you have to remember this. So if we have exothermic reaction goes in a beaker, we find the beaker very hot. But if we have endothermic, we find that a temperature of the beaker cold. Okay, the temperature will not increase unless all the crystal will melt. Now it's time for the heater under the pan to work a lot because it has to melt the crystal and meanwhile also keep the temperature rising at the same rate as that of the reference pan. This extra effort of the heating pan during melting shows up as a big dip on DSC curve. So because of endothermic, we will show it downward because the surrounding temperature is decreased and the heat flow is also shows in downward. Okay, because it is absorbing heat and the temperature will not rise again because tell me because it has to melt all the crystals first. And now if we put everything together, we will look like this. So first of all, we have glass transition, then we have crystallization, and then we have melting point. Okay, like polymers, we will have all these three. But if we have amorphous compound or amorphous substance, we will have only melting temperature. The DC plot graph when the polymer was heated past its glass transition temperature, it has a step. Then there is a big peak when the polymer reach its crystallization temperature. Then finally a big dip when the polymer reach its melting temperature. To put all them all together, a whole plot will often look like this. So what are the important points you have to remember? The crystallization peak and the melting dip will only observe for the sample that can form crystals and melt. You have to remember this thing. Samples having both amorphous and crystalline domains will show all the feature. Completely amorphous sample would not show any crystallization. For the glass transition, there is no dip, there is no peak either. This is because there is no latent heat given off or absorbed by the both melting and crystallization involve so I'm really sorry because of there is some problem in my thought. Okay, so both melting and crystallization involve giving off and absorb heat. So in the glass transition, you will not see any dip and there is no peak either. Okay, keep in mind that's why it is second transition. But in the first transition, when we have heat absorbed or evolved, we will say it is first order transition. So now transition state, I already mentioned the first order transition are melting and crystallization. We don't have latent heat which do have latent heat, endo or exothermic. Second order transition which don't have latent heat involved, like the glass transition, the DSC plot. The glass transition temperature is a change in the heat capacity of the sample. So now what are the applications? First of all, it is involved in drug analysis. So if you have in the pharmaceutical industry, it is necessary to have well characterized drug compounds in order to define processing parameter. For instance, if it is necessary to deliver a drug in the amorphous form, it is desirable to process the drug at temperature below the crystallization can occur. So if you want to deliver a drug at its amorphous form, so you have to process the drug at temperature below the crystallization can occur. Now study of polymer. So you will know the crystallization and melting temperature of the polymer. Then study of protein stability and folding. So it is very important to study about protein, because if you want to discover a drug or a new molecule, you have to know the stability and folding properties of the proteins. So oxidative stability, because everything which is involved in crystallization and melting points are DC, you can say are the parts of DC application. So you can do general chemical analysis. DC can be used to check the purity of different compound. Less pure compound will exhibit Borden melting speed that begins at low temperature than a pure compound. So if we talk about our example, we analyze a pure compound, but if we have a less pure compound having 2, 3 or 4 polymers or different type of material, less pure with impurities, we will have a Borden melting dip. Okay, because every compound have different melting points, so that's why we have Borden melting dip. So for food science, in food science research, DSC used in conjunction with other thermal analytical techniques to determine water dynamics. Changes in water distribution may be correlated with changes in texture. Okay, so I am very thankful to you for your attention, and if you have any question you can ask. Thank you very much.